term open source refers to something people can modify and share because its design is publicly accessible. The term originated in the context of software development to designate a specific approach to creating computer programs. Today, however, open source designates a broader set of values, what we call the open source way. Open source projects, products, or initiatives embrace and celebrate principles of open exchange, collaborative participation, rapid prototyping, transparency, meritocracy, and community-oriented development. What is open source software? Open source software is software with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. Source code is the part of software that most computer users don't ever see. It's the code computer programmers can manipulate to change how a piece of software, a program or application works. Programmers who have access to a computer program's source code can improve that program by adding features to it or fixing parts that don't always work correctly. What's the difference between open source software and other types of software? Some software has source code that only the person, team, or organization who created it, and maintains exclusive control over it, can modify. People call this kind of software proprietary or closed-source software. Only the original authors of proprietary software can legally copy, inspect, and alter that software. And in order to use proprietary software, computer users must agree, usually by signing a license displayed the first time they run this software, that they will not do anything with the software that the software's authors have not expressly permitted. Microsoft Office and Adobe Photoshop are examples of proprietary software. Open source software is different. Its authors make its source code available to others who would like to view that code, copy it, learn from it, alter it, or share it. LibreOffice and the GNU Image Manipulation Program are examples of open source software. As they do with proprietary software, users must accept the terms of a license when they use open source software, but the legal terms of open source licenses differ dramatically from those of proprietary licenses. Open source licenses affect the way people can use, study, modify, and distribute software. In general, open source licenses grant computer users permission to use open source software for any purpose they wish. Some open source licenses, what some people call copyleft licenses, stipulate that anyone who releases a modified open source program must also release the source code for that program alongside it. Moreover, some open source licenses stipulate that anyone who alters and shares a program with others must also share that program's source code without charging a licensing fee for it. Is open source software only important to computer programmers? No. Open source technology and open source thinking both benefit programmers and non-programmers. Because early inventors built much of the internet itself on open source technologies, like the Linux operating system and the Apache web server application, anyone using the internet today benefits from open source software. Every time computer users view web pages, check email, chat with friends, stream music online, or play multiplayer video games, their computers, mobile phones, or gaming consoles connect to a global network of computers using open source software to route and transmit their data to the local devices they have in front of them. The computers that do all this important work are typically located in faraway places that users don't actually see or can't physically access, which is why some people call these computers remote computers. Some people call remote computing cloud computing, because it involves activities, like storing files, sharing photos, or watching videos, that incorporate not only local devices but also a global network of remote computers that form an atmosphere around them. Cloud computing is an increasingly important aspect of everyday life with internet-connected devices. Some cloud computing applications, like Google Apps, are proprietary. Others, like OwnCloud and NextCloud, are open source. Cloud computing applications run on top of additional software that helps them operate smoothly and efficiently, so people will often say that software running underneath cloud computing applications acts as a platform for those applications. Cloud computing platforms can be open source or closed source. OpenStack is an example of an open source cloud computing platform.